Okay, guys, let's jump right in because this one is wild. The United States had been carrying out airstrikes in the Caribbean Sea and the Pacific Ocean, targeting alleged drug traffickers, and Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum is officially not having it. Not a fan, not today. She said, and I quote, "We do not agree." Wait, hold up. The US is dropping bombs near Latin America, and Mexico is basically like, cool story, bro, but maybe don't do that on our watch. Yeah, let's unpack this. Here's the situation. Since September 2, the US has carried out at least 9 strikes on boats. Yes, boats. And even a submarine, claiming they were carrying narcotics bound for America. The strikes have reportedly killed at least 27 people so far. And here's the thing. The US hasn't really provided proof that these were actual drug smugglers. Some reports say the victims might have been fishermen. Fishermen, not exactly cartels kingpins in the middle of the ocean. So naturally, Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum steps up and says, hey, there are international laws here. Maybe don't just bomb stuff willy-nilly. And she's not alone. Other Latin American leaders have expressed concern too. Basically, Sheinbaum is like the diplomatic equivalent of holding up your hands and saying, chill, we can talk about this. Sheinbaum has been walking a very delicate tightrope here. On one hand, the US has been, let's say, persistent in pressuring Mexico to curb drug trafficking. On the other hand, she can't exactly let foreign bombs rain near her country without saying something. And this pressure isn't just like polite emails. The Trump administration, yes, again, the Trump administration has been throwing some serious economic weight around. At the start of his second term, Trump threatened Mexico with a 25% tariffs on exports. Yeah, a quarter of all exports could have been taxed unless Mexico reinforced its border with 10,000 National Guard troops to stop drugs and immigration. And when Sheinbaum did fully comply to Trump's satisfaction, threats of higher tariffs, financial sanctions, the works. It's like the US is playing Monopoly, but the board is real life and the stakes are massive. But here's where it gets spicy. Trump also floated the idea, and I mean floated, of sending US troops into Mexico to tackle the cartels. Yep, officially offered soldiers to Mexico. And Sheinbaum, she said, sovereignty is not for sale. Sovereignty is loved and defended. Mic drop. Since then, tensions have been simmering. Reports popped up that the US had secretly signed an order authorizing military action against Latin American cartels. That doesn't necessarily mean bombs on Mexican soil, but it definitely set off alarm bells. And Sheinbaum has repeatedly reassured our citizens, no invasion, we are collaborating, but it's our territory. Now, about the strikes themselves. The campaign started in the Caribbean near Venezuela and Colombia. And just this week, it moved to the Pacific Ocean off Colombia's west coast. And the targets, small boats, submarine, alleged narcotics. But here's a twist. Legal experts, human rights officials, even the United Nations are warning that these strikes probably violate international law. Extrajudicial killings outside of combat zones? Yeah, that's a problem. If the US can strike boats in international waters without concrete evidence, where does it stop? What stops escalation? What stops mistakes? Like killing innocent fishermen instead of cartel leaders? It's like using a sledgehammer to crack a peanut and calling it justice. And Sheinbaum is basically in the hot seat. On one side, she has the US administration pressuring Mexico with tariffs, sanctions, and global scrutiny. On the other side, she's got her citizens and international law to uphold. And on top of that, the optics. She's suddenly called the Trump whisperer because somehow she manages to negotiate with her without letting bombs hit her backyard. That's a political title worthy of Cirque du Soleil. Here's a quick timeline to make your head spin. January, Trump threatens tariffs. Mexico agrees to reinforce border with 10,000 troops. March, 25% tariff goes into effect anyway. June, US sanctions 3 Mexican banks over alleged money laundering. May, offer of US troops on Mexican soil declined. September, airstrike campaign begins in Caribbean. October, expanded to Pacific waters near Colombia. All while Sheinbaum keeps saying, we collaborate, but our sovereignty is non-negotiable. That's a lot of chess moves. Now let's be crystal clear. This isn't a story about heroes and villains. It's about a complex situation where international law, drug trafficking, national sovereignty, and geopolitical pressure collide. The US claims it's stopping narcotics from reaching its borders. Mexico wants to protect its citizens and assert its sovereignty. Meanwhile, people in Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, and Trinidad and Tobago are potentially caught in the crossfire, and that's tragic. And it raises the question, what's the right way to handle drug trafficking across borders without escalating into military conflict? Diplomatic pressure? Intelligence sharing? Targeted law enforcement? bombing boats, probably not the last one if there's any chance of harming innocents. So here's the takeaway. Sheinbaum has firmly said, nope, sovereignty isn't for sale. The US is hitting alleged drug targets far from its borders. Latin America is watching. International law experts are concerned. And regular folks, fishermen, families, communities are facing the real consequences of these decisions. It's messy, it's tense, and it's happening right now. So, what do you think? Should international law limit military action like this? Can the US curb drug trafficking without striking potentially innocent people? And can leaders like Sheinbaum navigate this geopolitical tightrope without tipping over? Drop your thoughts below, and as always, we'll keep unpacking these stories that sound too wild to be real, but they are. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell because the world isn't slowing down and neither are we.